You got some convincing to do because I still see a little bit of need for it, and it's drop-in conditioning. Okay, because we know when you get to the end of that first game, your kids are smoked and you've conditioned them all summer. So what does that look like if you didn't do any conditioning? My fear as a new coach who ran a lot as a player is that now that's backed up to halftime or second quarter and we're gassed. So my question to you is, how are we getting players tough? What are we doing in that replacement of conditioning to make sure that we're mentally and physically able to carry out our game plan?
Well, it's really counterintuitive. What's intuitive is like I train track athletes. You would think that we would need to really, really run a lot to create good 400 runners, and it's the opposite. We sprint, we get fast, and then we don't ever run more than 200 meters ever in practice. And you say, well, how in the world can they compete in that grueling last part of the 400 without ever running that in practice?
Right.
Well, it's counterintuitive, but I'm telling you, it works. Now just like tomorrow, we're doing 3 200s with 4 minutes rest, and they will bust their ass on all 3 of them, and they will be in a fetal position afterwards. So they're not running a full 4. Well, the same concept works in football, that if your practices become game-like, I love the term, Les Bellman says, you gamify training. Now that can mean a couple different things. One is you keep score, you record, rank, and publish, you make it interesting, but it also means you make it like a game. So if your practices look like practices instead of like a game speed, then I believe there's no amount of conditioning you can do at the end of practice that will make you better in the fourth quarter. We learn well by stories. I had an old school football coach who went full in, drank the Kool-Aid to feed the cats, stopped conditioning, nothing on the weekends. His kids were sleeping in till noon on Saturdays, blah, blah, blah. They used to get up at 7 a.m. on Saturdays and run them. And he called me and he said, Coach, we're 3-0. And we just beat Centralia last night. And my good running back, 33 carries for 317 yards. And he said, we didn't condition one time. And I said, was he gassed for that last carry? He laughed and said, hell yeah, he was. But he gained 17 yards on that last carry. And there's nothing I could have done during the week that would have made him fresh. I'll repeat that. There's on that 33rd carry in the fourth quarter, there's nothing you can do. You could run 10,000 gassers and he probably would have gained 180 yards instead because he wouldn't have been as fast. So every time you condition, you're making your kids slower. They check out mentally. They're in survival mode during the practice instead of going during the practice. My father was a basketball coach for a big game. He'd always bring us in and say, guys, we're cutting practice down to 70 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes. That's all. We're not conditioning. And we'd look at each other like, holy hell. I wish those practices would have been videoed because they were the most aggressive, tough. I mean, I just don't think tired kids are tough. We run them to get them tough, but it's like the opposite. It's counterintuitive. So I really believe that if you have a really fast team, they're going to be fast in the fourth quarter.
It'll it'll take some getting used to for me because being military guy,
Oh, yeah.
our motto is kind of like don't ever let the first time be the first time. So if I'm going to have to operate at an exhausted level, I better have been exhausted before in my life and been forced to operate. Now, maybe that, and I'm not an operator by the term of like military term. I just mean in anything you're doing. I've had 72-hour missions on the road in Iraq or Afghanistan, right? And you're tired at the end, but I guarantee I didn't stay up for 72 hours and go, do a mission just to get ready to be doing a mission after 72 hours. It didn't happen that way. But there's still that concept of like, get tired and try to do what you're going to have to do. And maybe it just shows you the how you're going to fail when that happens. So maybe it, prioritizes sleep for you or whatever. But it is really a big part of what we do is that don't let the first time be the first time. So wherever I end up this next year coaching, I'm going to pitch this no conditioning idea, and I hope someone buys in because I want to record it. You talk about, I mean, I already record practice, so I want to see the effort. I want to see, and I want to take, I'm a scientist, I'm a biologist, right? I want to take notes and have data that says, of course we were exhausted. So were you in the fourth quarter, but were we more or less? And I would love to just see the data there.
Or were you faster? I mean, I still say that the
Speed.
faster team, like if you can run 22 miles an hour, you could be tired and run 19. And I think that's really true. And then that thing about toughness too, you brought up the military and stuff. I think one of the reasons why military guys are so tough is because of love. One of the things that they don't talk about enough is that the toughest guys in the military love their brothers. And that, once again, it's counterintuitive. Love sounds soft, but love, we fight for things we love. We fight for things we love. So if we made football more lovable, kids already love it. But man, if we made practice lovable too, where kids look forward to practice, a lot of kids, it's just the death march from Monday through Thursday.
Right.
Waiting for the game. That's the way it was for me. If I could have pushed a button every Monday to make Monday into Thursday, I would have pushed that button every damn week because I didn't like practice. As a quarterback, and they try to get me tough by running my ass off every day. And I was like, why are we doing this? Why don't we work on our passing game a little bit? But anyway, that thing about love making us tough, I think is really important.
Yeah, I was going to say too, Daniel, first of all, you're military, so what you're training for is a little different. And I know that's hard for you because a lot of those coaches, we like to call football a war. That's not the truth. Like for a war, you could die. Like you're fighting for your country. We're coaching a game with kids. And I think sometimes we got to be careful with that. A couple of notes I had for Tony that we've done this now. We've gone through Feed the Cats and we've gone through the year. And we had 0 cramps this year. With very limited injuries. The word that I always come back with, what Tony kind of got to us, is the word suboptimal. Like half of our practices in football are run at slow pace. And so like when you're doing that, you're running at 80%. Even if you don't tell your kids, hey, if you say we're going to run fade routes and you don't give them a number, or you don't tell them how many they're going to do, or you don't give them time to recover, they're not stupid. Like they're going to start running that not full speed because they can't. And so what happens is the first time they've run a full speed fade route is on Friday night. And so now that kid's going to cramp because he's not been performing at high, at optimal, at whatever the word is. Tony knows all the fancy words, but at full speed, And so one of the things we've done early on, we don't condition now at all, but in the summer, we would do 3 to 4 second bursts. So if you're forced to, I think we have to do a little bit to get at least a baseline before we start into whatever. You can do game-like situations like he said. That could be, but it's only going to be 3 seconds worth of whatever it is of full speed. And we don't do very many of those. We do them at like 40-second optimal. And then we've now gone away from doing that at all. But we started off with that. The other thing I wanted to hit was game-like drills. Think about coaches. Pursuit drill is a very game-like drill. You're full speed. That makes sense. We're all working full speed. You can do tackling drills from space, full speed. You can do routes, full speed. You can do coverage, full speed. You can do it hitting a sled, full speed for 3 seconds. There's a lot of things you can do. That doesn't mean you have to do it at the end of practice because you did it during practice. Like you did it during practice. You conditioned during practice. And the last thing I wanted to hit was the word tough. Tony kind of hit it with love, and I do think that's true. There's a lot of ways you can train toughness without just running the crap out of a kid. Like you can train toughness by putting a kid in a hard mental situation, a coverage situation. You can put them under pressure. We're going to do 5 push-ups if you screw up on this. That doesn't run his legs off. Where now he's under pressure. He has to perform in a tough environment, some kind of skill you're going to ask him to do in a game. And now that kid doesn't hate you because he understands what you're trying to do. Like you're not just running him because you don't like him. Like you're putting him in a situation to help him be successful down the road. And I think, again, the word he put on there with love, you're going to get a lot of kids that will play their guts out for you if they know you love them, not play their guts out for you because they're scared of you. And I think that's a very different coaching mindset.
Sure is.
So last little part of this question, and we'll move on. So how do you get your coaches and fans on board? Coach Simpson, I want to hear from you first this time, and I just want to hear. I know you're all about let the professional in the room talk, but I want to know, how did you get your coaches to commit to no conditioning?
Well, we got to win. So first of all, make sure. No, I'm just kidding. But I will say this: here's what coaches are scared of, and I believe this is a very true statement in football. We would rather lose with what we're comfortable with and fans are comfortable with than be willing to step outside the box and take a chance. And I think that is prevalent in football. I don't know about other sports because I don't coach other sports as much, but I think football coaches would rather lose running an offense that everyone else is running than running a unique offense that you might lose with because it's unique. Same thing I think with this, with what Tony's going with here is, a lot of coaches would rather lose doing things the way they've always done it than take the risk, because it's a big risk of stepping out and being different than everyone else to play. Now, the good thing is a lot of coaches are getting on board with it. Hey, this makes sense. Do it. So it's not as hard anymore. It's not real hard to say your coach is on working less hours. I'm telling you right now, believe it or not, not very hard. Now, what you have to do is talk about efficiency. So that's what a big word in our field house is: efficiency. We're going to work. I don't bring my coaches on Saturday. That's stupid, but get your work done and be ready to go. Be efficient during our time. We don't bring our players in there. And then we talk about the same thing in our weight room. We had Derek Smith, who was one of my favorites, probably one of the best we've ever had, with strength and conditioning. Then he decided to be a full-time plumber because apparently they're going to pay him a lot more money doing that. Tony, I can't believe it. So now we brought in another guy. And so he's now kind of getting on board with how we're being efficient. Everybody's different. Everybody's kind of got things they like that are different, but how can we be efficient in what we're doing and not just doing something because it's always been done? So that's big for coaches. Fans are can be a little more finicky in the South. Welcome to where football is a religion at times and not just a sport. It can be tougher there. However, I think a lot of fans do appreciate, especially now, that you're not just wearing their kid out as far as you're going to have those crazy ones and I'm one of them. They expect you to, be there up there all day and their kids up there all day. And we got to get ready for the big game. So you're not going to get away from that. Like I've been at a high peak in coaching and I've been at the lowest of the low in coaching, and they're going to turn on you whether you win or lose, not really whether you're running this program or not. I hate to be honest, but that's honest.